What's it like to be you? What's it like to be you right now? And then as you listen, as you hear, as you feel, as you see what's here, what's loudest for each of us? What is the loudest? What's it like to be you? How are you? What's the loudest? Is it a flavor of what Deborah and I were hanging out in, this ease, this peace, this okayness that we started with? Or is it more a sense of where Deborah went? She's like, yeah, it was great. And then I drove through this wealthy neighborhood in California, and there was a part that just felt disgusted. Do you have a part that's here? What's loudest for you right now? And then just to contextualize it together, what's the most prominent flavor of beingness that's here? Why don't we go around and just hear what the word is or the sentence or the description for each of us as we start today? What is this all arising in? What's the flavor of beingness? Is it like that ease that Deborah said, or more of a peace or an emptiness or a love or a connectedness? What's your word for what's here? And one more thing, what's it like for that to be here? What's it like to rest in that, whatever that word is? And are you aware of that, or are you aware as it? What's that like? Aware of that beingness, or are you aware as it? Who wants to go first with what's it like to be you? Golly! You were the stillest.
Okay. Well, stay right. You're saying what is the loudest right now, right here. It's just the silence is the loudest. It's quiet, but I am. I am all of the memories. I am all of the dramas that brought me here. All the uh, I mean, throughout the life, everything happens that makes us what we are right now. And I can remember all of those. Right here, right now, I am the that silence that can remember everything. So if you're asking me right here, right now, how I really am in peace and quietness um and love. But if you ask me what brought you here, I can number too many traumas, too many lost, too many sadness, mm, anxiety, all of those, they are still remembered, but I can see them clearly and I can see how they were necessary to bring me here that I am now. I'm grateful for all of them, and I know whatever happened to me were supposed to happen to me. All those suffering were necessary for me, and everything that my maybe subconscious or whatever, I don't know how to describe it to me, to my body, or to or whatever feeling there was. All those parts, they were there to support me, and when I was able to see them as supporter, as my not my enemy, but something that was real, like dear to me, then I was able to pass the trauma and accept those parts and love them. And then they were melted. I mean, I can see them right here, right now, very clearly, but they are melted in me. They are a part of me. They are me.
Wow. You guys have the same word? Like wow,
Mm.
when Golly shares that. So all of that, Golly describes like how am I right now? And her descriptions of this beingness, or her words for how am I right now? Silence. Can we all feel the silence or know the silence? What's most like the silence that Golly describes that's here for us? What's most like silence? Golly discusses a peace here. What's most like peace that's here now? Most like peace. What's that feel like? Does it have a frequency, a tone? What's the tone of peace? And sometimes it's easier to feel it outside of ourselves. You could just maybe you could feel it in Goli. Like, what's the tone of that? Where would it be on the keyboard? What note would this be? This peace. Does the body resonate as peace? Goli described a love. A love is here. What's most like love that's here for each of us now? And does love have a different tone than the peace? Is it different? And how do we know? Oh, that's love that's here now. That's love, a different tone, a different frequency, a different feel as it becomes embodied. And okay, then we're gonna really, Gully really push the edge for us. Because then she said, put a big and there. And she said, all the loss, the sadness, the trauma, the anxiety, the suffering of my life, all of that too is fully included here. Loss, sadness, trauma, anxiety is fully included here. This kind of brings us back to what Deborah and I were talking about at the beginning, where Deborah was talking about aspects of us that we might not welcome yet. And so my question for all of us, when Goli speaks of loss, sadness, trauma, and anxiety that's occurred in her life, even loss, sadness, trauma, and anxiety that's occurred in her life, when we hear that, however that resonates with us, can we notice where there's a no to it? If there's a no to that, where there's a no to, well, you want me to feel that, to accept that, to welcome that? Are you crazy? To notice where there's a yes, because we're hearing a lot of yes in Goli, and it's lovely how she's kind of leading us in this. Can see yes to all of that, to all of the suffering, even the feeling it, welcoming it, letting it, and we're not pushing. We're just noticing. We're not saying one is better than the other, because I want to suggest that the no is the hero at this point, because it's saying, okay, yes to those, but no to that. So we're not pushing. We're just noticing the yes and the no. How do you, what do you, this is where I went with what you shared, Goalie. What else? How did I do with that? What's your, you do a little corrections, edits? What you got to add?
It's funny as that I say something and you describe it so well that I even understand it better than what I said. You're really good at that. Thank you. I mean, this is your gift, really, and I appreciate that. That's why I always want to be here to feel that gift in you, that you can understand and welcome everyone and everything. Everything. It's so precious. Thank you.
You. How are we doing? What's it like for all of us as goalie with goalie sharing and how it resonated inside of us? I'd love to hear what comes up for Deborah and Sarah, and then we'll keep going around and hearing about each of our systems. What's that like for you? And as you're being with that, why don't I do my quick housekeeping thing that I'm a mediator. I'm not a psychotherapist. Friends and colleagues exploring. If everybody's good, being responsible for their journeys. If I could get a thumbs up, please. And then, as always, and goalie, get dance, thumbs dance. As always, I've got the recording on. Only my image is shared. If there's ever any discomfort with what you're sharing, just let me know. We'll click pause. You can be a co-host and click pause, or if at the end you're like, oh my God, just tell me, and I go delete, delete, delete. If everybody's good, that the audio of your sharing might be shared, but never the video. If I could get a thumbs up, please. All right. So what's it like for Deborah and Sarah? What's it like for you to hear what goalie shared and looking at it in your own system? What's touched?
I felt very um free to explore that when she was talking, like welcoming her experiences and opening myself to them, to know there was a lot of all those feelings, anxiety, trauma, sadness, loss, uh, in a way that's more I'm gonna say not personal, but I know those feelings too. There was something in the sharing of it that made it easier for me to open to all of that. And also I could feel a little bit the parts that I'm not wanting to feel in myself. So it sort of woke that up. Like I can
And
welcome all of hers, but maybe I'm not welcoming all of mine. So
yeah, and can that be a celebration of? It sounds weird because we're so used to, Deborah and I've been part of these spiritual groups together where there's a sense of achieving, going further, going deepening and healing. And but like, can it be a celebration of, okay, no, I'm not ready to welcome that. I can see what I am and what I'm not ready to welcome, which is that sense of the no or the reservation. Like, can you find the part in you that kind of says no or concerns or skeptical and not ready? This part of you, like, can we all find that? Any kind of aspect of us that's kind of like, if someone said to me, "Hey, Sid, let's go run a 10K," it was like, "Yeah, right." It's like that's a kind of a wise part that says, "I'm not ready for that." And can we find that wisdom in our own system in this? And can we see like the innocence and beauty of that, of how it's caring for us? Just like really this welcoming, like truly welcoming it. And we might have another part at the same time. We probably have a part that says, no, but it would be better if we truly welcomed all of this. That would be better if everything unconditionally was welcome. Maybe we have a part that says that. And just can all of that be included? What's that like? How does that play in your system, Deborah?
um I can feel the parts, like I think my disdain and my um anger's too strong a word, but I'll put that in there, is protecting my sad part from being welcome here, right? I'm the parts like I'm not enough, um, I'm not enough. Eh, yeah, it's hard to welcome those sometimes. And it's and the automatic is to have the cover feeling of like, I don't care about that, or go away, or she wasn't nice to me, whatever it is, right? And not explore what's really underneath that. I don't know if I'm making sense. I sort of
Mm.
went off.
So what about that? When we recognize, like when you said there's a in Deborah's system, a sad part, a part that have a sense of not enough. Like I'm wondering if it's possible that those can be included without being with them. Like there's awareness of them, almost like it's a theater, it's a stage. And Sarah is actually really helpful with that because she's the one that's got this. She has this awareness of parts like few others, like all of these parts of hers, and it's almost like that. The sense of well, they're all on the stage. I don't know what the stage looks like or the image, but like they're parts. And in my system, they're often down in the basement. It's like, oh, we're not coming up. We're fine. We're comfy. We're on our little couch and kind of got pillows and blankets around us, and we're not going anywhere. Um, but if those can be included, like there's awareness of them, and maybe there's a part that says, oh, we should go down and welcome them up and have them come up, and they should still be down in the basement. And then there's another part that says, there's a reason they're down in the basement and they'll come up when they're ready, perhaps. And just can all of that be seen? It's almost like the theater that's going on inside of ourselves. It's lovely, this play of life. How's that, Deborah?
Yeah, definitely. Like well, like your is it Rumi's hotel where all guests are welcome? Yeah, I've not had the welcome mat out for these parts in the last week or so. And I can see the welcoming of them is the welcoming that I felt with Goli. And so why are my parts not welcome, but I welcome her experience. So
And is it okay that the Rumi's guest house, that hotel, that guest house has a basement, and that there are parts that, well, we just stay in the basement? Are they welcomed just right there?
yeah, I like how you say that it's super accepting. You don't have to do anything different. You're just welcome as you are.
What's that like for all of us? That image Deborah's sharing, just welcomed as you are, wherever you are, even the ones in the basement, and perhaps even especially the ones in the basement, welcome just as they are. That nothing needs to change. And just before we flip over to Sarah, this sense that nothing needs to change, can you find that authentically as the voice of self, as the voice of beingness, that just truly welcomes and loves what is? It's just a yes to what is. And just the contrast between that and our precious parts that have ideas about how they can help Deborah, Sid, Goli, and Sarah, and they want to help and make things better, and just the innocence and beauty of that. And then again, the simultaneity of those being here, and also there's a sense of this kind of causeless okayness, just what is. What's it like for both of those, for all of that to be here? Both the okayness and the no, it'd be better if. What's it like to be here in all of that? Is there a tension that we feel somatically? What's it like if when all of that's included, the causeless okayness, nothing needs to change, and voices that say it would be better if? No, of course we need to change. Okay. I just got to do wow again. This is really neat. Wow. Are you ready, guys? Ready for Sarah? Are you ready? Drum roll. I don't know if you can hear the drum. And it's Sarah.
Thank you, Sid. It's it's beautiful what Goli shared. I really loved um, what you said about how they're melted into you. Um, Gave me a sense that they're really integrated. They're not like they're not exiled or uh, they're not outside of you somewhere. It's like they're melted into you. They're integrated, and um, I welcome these parts. And yeah, sometimes it's easy to welcome them in others than in us. And I try to listen to the parts in me that were longing for that feeling of being melted, of being integrated. The parts that feel isolated, they feel exiled somewhere, like they're not welcomed. And I try to welcome these parts. Um, yeah, and there's um, a sense of sadness about it. Like, oh, I'm so sorry. I shut you out for a long time, but you're welcome home now. And there's a feeling of completeness when these parts are part of the system again. When I see them, when I hear them, it's like they were gone and now they're back. But were they really gone? You know, I feel like they were always there, but just unheard, unseen. Yeah.
What's all that like, Sarah? Just all that you shared, this vulnerability, the preciousness, the dearness of speaking about your system that way, of speaking about your parts. They seem gone and now they're back. Maybe they weren't ever gone. Maybe they were here and just not seen. The sense of sadness, and parts being shut out, the feeling of completeness that comes back as they're being welcomed. What's it like to share all of that, to see all that, to feel all of that? What's that like? How is that to speak that to us?
Yeah, there's a welcoming of these parts, like they're welcome to come home.
This, this welcoming, as we hear Sarah use this word welcoming, just where a few minutes ago we were talking about this place of like this yes, this nothing needs to be done, this space of self that's just this causeless okayness as it is. Can we find that that word welcoming Sarah's speaking of can be an expression of our beingness that just welcomes, that is just a yes to what is a yes to the parts as they are. And then for some aspects of the system that might even feel too dense, too much, this welcoming. It's like, no, we're just back we're back in the basement, we're back in the shadows. This welcoming, it feels almost like it can feel even too loud for some parts. And for those, can we find this place of just this awareness of, like Sarah was describing, well, they were always here, they just weren't being heard and seen. Like the sense of there was awareness of the parts, like they're being included. And as Deborah was speaking of the guest house, they're all being included. And it's like it can, for some of the parts, just awareness of them can be enough because we don't want them to feel any push. We don't want them to feel any sense of, oh, you need to be welcome. We're welcoming you. Can you feel that? It's like for some parts, that's too much. And just the awareness of them, where they're included in our party. They're here in the house. They're here. How you doing, Sarah?
Yeah, it feels good. It feels good to have these parts included.
I just like it was one of your first lines here. Not outside of me, not exiled. Like to be not exiled, not outside of me, included. But it can be so gentle, this inclusion, nothing needing to be done.
Yeah, sense of relief.
And do we have any, as we play with this for all of us, as we play with this larger inclusion, this inclusion of more of our parts, this awareness of them, often there's a little bit of a triggering that happens. Often there's there's parts that have a little bit of a backlash because it can be scary, right? Because we're including some parts that have hidden, that aren't really ready to come out yet. We're just including them. We're aware of them, but we're not. And but these are some parts of us. We've all had difficulties. I mean, I loved Goldie's words as she was describing the loss, the sadness, the trauma, the anxiety, right? And we look at her now and we're like, what? No way. You're an exception. You didn't have. But it's like even Goldie, all of that. And just for and I know every one of those words, and I'm guessing we can all find those words in our systems. And we have parts of us that are still wounded by this, still feel they're still carrying some of that weight. And as we become aware of them, wow, they're in the basement of the guest house. They're protector parts that get scared. They're like, whoa, what are you doing here? What are you doing? This is there's a reason we're not feeling those parts. There's a reason we're not feeling the sadness, the anxiety, the loss, the trauma. There's a reason. And just to notice as we're just being so gentle together, notice any parts that come up that have concern. And there's a sense of fully receiving them, fully hearing them, fully welcoming them. And then this is where it becomes kind of sneaky, like Deborah and I were talking or before you guys came on about like sneaky parts, ones that we can't really see and aware of yet. One that's really sneaky in my system is one that it's kind of like the ones that went to school and wanted to get A's and B's, wanted to do well in school. It has an idea that there's a doing well here, and what doing well looks like is no, we need to go in and we need to be with those. We need to heal our system. That's what this journey is about. And those are the sneaky ones in my system. And just can we notice our expressions of those parts, the ones that would like to, that have an idea that doing well, healing is about going in and meeting our scared parts, the ones that are of Goldie's words, the anxiety, the loss, the sadness, the trauma. And can we love that part of us? Can we love those parts that kind of push us? It's like, yeah, you can do this. You can do this. Come on. Can we just love those parts and be aware of them? And this is one of my favorite gifts of IFS. Again, it's being aware of the parts instead of aware as the parts. If we can see these, if we can identify and be aware of these parts, then we're not blended. They're not just kind of covertly blended here. We're aware of them. Anything else, Sarah, before we see what comes up for Deborah and Goldie with what you just shared?
I can't feel any resistance to these parts, but maybe there's a sneaky one that I'm not aware of. I think it's the binger one, the one that binges a lot. Uh, there's a sense of maybe this part is distracting me. Well, this binger part is really just chasing dopamine. It just wants more of everything that feels good. There's a sense of it not wanting to ever feel bad. It just wants more good feelings. So yeah, in a sense, it's resisting any sad feelings.
Yeah. So this is just Sarah's part. We can't relate to this one, right? Joke. Um, the dopamine chaser. The dopamine chaser wants more good feelings. And when we hear that, is there just, is there compassion and understanding for this part, that just the innocence of it, like the child that wants the candy bar coming out of the grocery store? It's like, of course it wants the candy bar. Of course it wants the good feelings. Of course it wants the dopamine. Well, that's why I compulsive Sid picking up his iPhone. I barely ever put my iPhone down. I'm always playing on my iPhone. Dopamine, dopamine, dopamine. And so,
So,
oh, sorry.
the dopamine chaser.
Dopamine chaser. Isn't that cool? It's kind of fun. Um, and then here's a question. What is it that this dopamine chaser in all of us really wants? What is it really longing for, the dopamine chaser? It's really longing for. What's really longing for? And what's most like what it's longing for that's here now? That's an aspect of your intrinsic nature. What's it really longing for, this dopamine chaser? Is it this ease that Deborah was speaking of? This ease, this okayness, this peace? Is it kind of a bliss of connectedness? Is it a love, a causeless okayness? What is the dopamine chaser longing for in you? And what's most like that which is here now? Maybe you can even feel the longing of it, the one that's grasping for the next dopamine hit. In my system, it's jumping on Facebook, or it's calling a friend, the dopamine chaser. What's it longing for? Can you feel that longing? As you feel that longing, can it evoke it from self, from beingness? Maybe it's an intimacy of connection, a sense of unity, bliss. It's a care, it's a being seen, it's a connection, it's a play, love, joy. What's that like? Can you feel both the longing of it and the fullness or fulfillment that is here in self? Wow. What's this like? What's this like for you guys? How are we doing?
Well, for me, this binger part, this dopamine chaser, the more I'm aware of exiled parts, the more this dopamine chaser wants to feel good.
What's that? What's that like, Sarah? That for all of us. You hear that? In Sarah's system, the more she becomes aware of these exiles, these vulnerable aspects of us. The more she becomes aware of that, the more the kind of the maybe the more prominent the dopamine chaser becomes in her system and wanting to feel good. Can we track something like that in our systems as we start touching some of the discomfort, some of those words that Goli was using? That's something like, I don't want to feel that. I want to feel good. I'm the dopamine chaser. And it comes up and tries. And then here's the big thing, right? Notice how we can go back and forth between one or the other here. We can go to the, oh, we're touching the exiles, and then it shifts over to the dopamine chaser, and then it shifts back to the vulnerability and back to the dopamine chaser. What we play with doing here is being aware of all of this, being aware of both of these, like zooming out, or they're on the stage, or they're at the guest house, and it's just where the space in which this play, this dance occurs of the dopamine chaser and the vulnerability and the exile. And just as in the exquisiteness of where Goli, how she guided us at the beginning, where all of it is being welcomed, all of it's included. How are we doing, gang? What's going on? It's just like,
There's a sense of how this part is really good. Um, it has a way of finding the dopamine in anything. I mean, it can be as simple as oh, there's a sad part. Oh, I feel that sadness. Um, and immediately it would focus on something that feels good, like, oh wow, look at Deborah's beautiful pink hair. Oh, that feels good. Oh, look at Goli's red glasses. That is so good. And then it just goes on and on, and it won't allow the sad feelings to be fully felt or to be fully blended with that, with the sad part. It's like this. I realize how this dopamine chaser is really good. It doesn't care about how little the dopamine is. It just knows how to find it and just pile it up like a snowball.
so how about that, Sarah? Before we go, because it's very easy to go to a part that's going to be critical of the dopamine chaser. We all have those parts. But can we hear how Sarah's just kind of got this wow about the dopamine chaser? Like it can find it. It can find the dopamine and Deborah's hair and Coley's glasses, just wherever it can find it. And so let me ask us all, like, are we able to be like intimate? Are we able to welcome this dopamine chaser of Sarah's? And are we able to even be intimate with it and enjoying it? What, like as Sarah's describing, just the wow and what it's like. Almost like it's on the center of the stage. It's got the spotlight. It's, hey, we're featuring the dopamine chaser today. Let's all. It's gonna sing its song. It's gonna perform. It's gonna entertain us. Yeah, like because I
Yeah,
think in this. Oh, sorry.
yeah. There's a sense of gratitude and appreciation to that part because it makes life feel so good. It just finds the good in anything and everything.
And so as we're hearing Sarah describe this part, as it's in the center of the stage, are we able to really be intimate with it, to enjoy it, like really enjoy it, almost like if it was joy or if it was like a different, whatever parts are easiest to be with, can we find the same enjoyment and intimacy with the dopamine chaser part? What's that like? Because I want to suggest something, that this embracing, this welcoming, this enjoying is how our systems open to what Goli was sharing and what Sarah was speaking of the integrating, the fully integrating the part, like fully integrating, because there's just such a love of it. This this guy that developed IFS, this guy Dick Schwartz, I got to spend a lot of time with him, and like when you're really sitting with him and he's talking about his parts, it's the most beautiful thing, and it's not dissimilar to what I experience in Sarah from time to time with this. It's like he just adores this. There's just an adoring of them. There's such an intimacy. There's adoring of them, and through that, everything is just welcomed and loved in this play of life. Anyway, what's bubbling? Anything else bubbling, Sarah? Let me see what happens for Deborah and Goli with all of this.
Yeah, I realized this part is really so small. Like it's a very young child, like a child that's exploring the world, and um, just like how a toddler is just happy to see the silliest things, like it would see anything and be amazed by it and happy. So it's that part. Yeah, it's in that age that it's about the exploration and learning. It likes a lot of colors, textures, weird tastes, um, anything new. It just likes anything new and anything that looks different. And it knows how to find these things and just really enjoy them. Things, yeah, things that we adults we don't really notice sometimes.
The gift, that aspect of us in all of us that Sarah's describing, how it could just enliven our lives, right? It's like the sense of wonder. Wow. Deborah's hair. I want to see Deborah. Deborah, will you show us more about your hair? I mean, it's like it just wants to. It's all of that aliveness. Yes, like we do. We can we all find that that innocent aliveness, wonder that's here, and then we can also notice parts that kind of shut it down. And oh, Deborah's turning her hair now. We can see more of the color, and see. Deborah Goli, what comes up with you as Sarah's taking us on this journey?
Just for one thing to say to Sarah, when you were just describing that, I was like picturing a little girl who's like finding treats to show to the mom or something. Mommy, look at this. Like, oh, look at that. Like, is it a I mean, it looked like a way to please the mom. I mean, that might be like a story of me, but or my upbringing, but like finding the magic, the beauty to give to another as recognition almost. I don't know if I don't know, that's just where my mind went. But anyway, that was really beautiful to hear your experience. Yeah, the welcoming and acceptance is mainly what I'm struck with in this. The deep feeling of that all welcome. And I have a part that feels like belligerent a little bit that I think I don't listen to very often that wants to be heard. So that's kind of a newer awareness this morning for me. Like a teenager going, I don't like that, mom. Why do you? And I never had that chance. I never ever spoke up. There's a part that's like, so what? You know, just more like wants to wants to say something like you hurt my feelings or I didn't like that. And that's never really been a part of my experience.
So when you hear that part, Deborah, when that teenage voice that wants to speak and say, "So what?" Whatever, when it comes up, where do you find it? Where do you feel it? Is there a sense of you hear it from a particular, is it from your head, outside of you? You feel it in your chest. Where do you find this?
It's funny because it's probably a part that I could blend with pretty easily because it makes me want to react and protect. It says, I'm going to speak up for that part that's hurt. So
Yeah.
it's acting out something, and I yeah, I have to think what I've been doing with that part because it's been here for a couple days.
Where do you, when it comes, where is it? How do you know it? How do you know it's here? How do you hear it, see it, feel it?
Yeah, I can feel it as like a little bit of anger, and I can hear it. I can hear it.
And where does the voice seem to come from? Like, is it in your head? Is it in front of you, behind you?
Yeah, that's interesting. I kind of want to say it comes from the left side somehow. I'm not sure why, because I'm sitting against a wall here, but
Nice.
yeah, it comes up from outside.
So just for all of us, we're getting to know, welcoming this teenage voice in Deborah, are we able to welcome it just as she is, this teenager, this protectiveness that shows up in her? And do we have parts that come up and say that kind of maybe has it have any difficulties with the teenager or that voice that we're hearing in Deborah? Just to notice what arises in each of us. How intimate are we with Deborah's parts, with this part of Deborah, this teenager? And Deborah, how intimate are you with her? Is she truly, is there a space of just truly letting her be here, to have the space, to have you, to speak? And then for each of us, as we hear this one that's off to the left side in Deborah, that she can feel some anger in her body, can we relate to that? Can we find a voice that's like that in us? Maybe it's a teen that says no. There's a lot of, just as Sarah was talking, the freedom of her dopamine chaser. We could feel the freedom and the gift of that dopamine chaser. Can we also feel the aliveness and gift of this teenager that just kind of says so or no and just kind of does that in her own way, especially as Deborah says, that part really didn't have a lot of space for her back in the day. It didn't really get to express so much. Can we find the freedom in that? Can we find even a sense of celebration in welcoming that part in Deborah and welcoming it in us? The one that's like, oh, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I don't like that. How's it going, Deborah?
Yeah, it's weird because I've been resisting like there in a meeting someone sort of totally bypassed me and I was thinking I'm just going to email that person. So I was going to act on it even and I'm like, wait a second. I'm like trying to like take it apart. I could, but then I'm making it a story about something that feels really old. Like maybe I'm analyzing it too much. I could just say, wow, that really hurt my feelings. Um, but I feel like I think I'm trying to make it go away, actually. I'm trying to deal with it in my own place here.
What does she want? As we hear Deborah's teenager, what's she longing for? Who's speaking up? It's like, how dare you pass me up? And however she's coming up in Deborah's system, what is it that she longs for, that she really wants? What do we hear that she's longing for? Is it space, respect, uh, deference, understanding, welcoming, integration? What is it that she's longing for? As we all guess, if we can guess this, because it. I just want to say that it can help with the welcoming. Just to notice this in our systems, if we're truly guessing inside, what is this teenager really longing for? And maybe your teenager can feel the dearness in that. I mean, there's such a dear, the depth of interest and care, and like, what is it that you're longing for? And we're guessing, we're really caring. What do you What do you find, Deborah? What is she longing for?
Yeah, to be heard
To be heard.
and accepted.
And then right now, notice if she's able to receive some of that, to be heard and accepted as the three of us are here receiving her, hearing her, connecting with her, as your system is kind of hearing her and giving her space and speaking for her. Can she feel that sense of being heard and accepted that's here?
Yeah, that feels good. I can feel that.
Mm.
Hmm.
And then can she feel it really from Deborah? Because ultimately, what it is, we can find it right here in our very essence, this receiving, this welcoming, this hearing and accepting. The sense that home is here, it's right here for her. Mm.
Yeah, there's a calming acknowledgement. Wow, that's powerful. I didn't really know I could do that.
I love that what you just said. Wow, that's powerful. I didn't know I could do that. Sometimes I think of these as tipping points where the system starts to recognize up in IFS called updating to something like that. Wow, this can be found here. I could do that. I'd like to check that's so precious what you're sharing with us. See how this is playing in Goalie and Sarah as they hear this. Anything there, Goalie coming with this teenage share, or Sarah's dopamine chaser. There's been a lot going on.
I love both of them. I love what Deborah shared about that child or teenager within. I think it's I mean, that's the most important thing, to be able to find that child that had been ignored for so long and listen to what she has to say. I mean, being true to her, like when listening to her, whatever happens, if she's happy or not, and like being true to her, to like if something, there is a decision to be made, listen to her. Okay, if this is in tune with my happiness or not. If it's not, just saying no to that. That's okay. I think it's really, really precious to find that child. That I mean, that for me, that was what healing happened. To find the child and see where in my life I was ignored. I as a child, and and decided not to ignore it anymore. To be like. Uh, Setting her free, kind of. And it was really healing for me. And what Sarah said about that, chasing the happiness in every little aspect of life experience, that was so, I mean, that is the life worth living for, just finding happiness in every small thing. And when she said that's like a child that is like experiences everything for the first time, it occurred to me, what is the difference between us as adults that doesn't let us enjoy everything? And that is, I think, our judgmental thought that we trained our brain to name everything, to like when we see something, like we see my red glasses, the judging mind comes up. Why is it red? Or like Oh, is there, it doesn't let us to enjoy the just the experience as the first time, and and it can happen in every little thing, and that's what life should be, I think, just enjoying everything.
Mm. How do we take that seriously? Like really let that in what Gully just said, the enjoying everything. Can we see it? Sometimes it even feels like it's a gradation. Where at first there's awareness of all of this. There's awareness of these parts. There's awareness of what's arising. And then the system, wow, there's really a welcoming. There's really a welcoming of all of what's arising in us. Even the nose, even the nose. And then it even blossoms to the sense of enjoying, just like what Sarah was doing with this, the dopamine chaser, and Deborah was doing with the teenager, like the enjoying. And even though this might sound like it's some of that, just the psychology books we've read, and it's just like when people are talking about healing the inner child and stuff like that, and which is yes, 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 yes. And I love where how Goalie really took that further too, where she said it's not just beyond the welcoming. It's like, are we really listening to it? Are we really listening to her? And the sense of wow, she's this welcoming, she's really fully being included. These aspects of us are fully being honored and included. And so I want to, even though it might seem like it's just that, I want to suggest that it's all this other stuff too that we're talking about, that all of us have been talking about, self-leadership and self-realization and all of that. It's in the fully including, the fully welcoming, because goalie started us off today in describing this integration that's happened in her system, the sense of the self-leadership, the beingness that's here, and the full inclusion of all of the parts, all of the history. What else, goalie?
Yeah, everyone talks so well. I don't have anything, just yeah.
Thank you. Sarah, anything bubbling as we meet Deborah's teenager? Anything bubbling there for you?
Yes. Yeah, I also loved what Goli said about how, how that wonder child part, how it enjoys everything, and a sense of enjoy. It's to be enjoy. So this part really works well with joy. It's like a direct link to joy. It just finds whatever links to the joyful part. So it makes it easy for joy to step in. It like calls it in immediately to just come on in and take over. Um, yeah, and it's something also that Deborah said, finding magic. Like, yeah, it finds magic in everything. Um, and it's just so good at finding that magic. And yeah, and that makes life worth living. It makes you feel full of life. There's just so much to enjoy all the time. And back to that teenager part, I connected with that part in me, and I found it. Yeah, it's a rebel, and when it's rebelling, it's acting out. It's acting out and rebelling against authority, breaking enmeshment. It doesn't want to be enmeshed with authority figures, um, even with the system. It wants to be its own self. It wants to be recognized. It wants acknowledgement, just like an adult, because it doesn't feel acknowledged as a teenager. It feels like it needs to grow up and be an adult to have a voice and to be acknowledged. It wants autonomy. It wants to be authentic, to have a sense of its own self, and that's why it rebels. It rebels, and it's not impressed by anything. It does not conform. Um, it disagrees. It argues with everything and anything. And it says no to everything. I don't like that. So what? So it doesn't find any conformity or agreeability. It does not want to agree with anything. If it feels like if I rebel, I'll be my own self. I have my own opinion. If you choose right, I'll choose left because I am me. I'm not you. So it's just as simple as that. And it sounds so childish, but it's just the way this part works. It just wants to be its own self, and it thinks that it's the only way. I have to be different, and I have to choose different to be me, to have autonomy, to have my own self, my own voice, my own thoughts, my own choices. And something Goli said about helping that part to decide, because decision is something that authority figures take. If you get to decide, then you're an adult. You have authority. Teenagers, this teenage part, they don't feel like they get to decide anything. So this part, if it gets to decide, then it gets to be in control. So I sense that, it wants control. It feels controlled by others, by other parts maybe, or by the system as a whole. So it wants to be separate. So it's kind of like it's choosing its own exile. It's not really exiled by the system. It's more choosing exile to be its own self, because it does not feel welcome in the system. So if this part feels more welcomed, then it can rejoin the system, like rejoining a family. And it's funny. It brought up feelings from being a teenager, how that teenager behaved, like not joining the family for dinner or for breakfast because it wants to be in exile. It wants to have its own self. But if it feels accepted, then it will join. It will be included in the family. It will choose to be present with the family. And if it's forced to be present, it won't be fully present. It will be present maybe in body, but not in spirit. Like this part, it knows how to separate itself, like how a teenager would be on their phone or holding their book or whatever that makes them be present in body but not in spirit, because they want to have autonomy. So this part really really takes this stuff seriously, and allowing it to decide and to be heard and to be seen, it makes it more present in the system, makes it feel like it's safe to be here. Yeah, so this was really powerful. I never realized that this part in me was so exiled and on its own terms. And yeah, now it's having some time to express how it feels.
Yeah.
I'm like jumping up and down. Oh my God, Sarah, what the hell? That was amazing, because everything that you said was like things I was not aware of in that part. The enmeshment, it's like, here's this for you. You're like this. This is what you think. This is who you are. And if I even ever tried to say I'm not like that, yes, you are, right? There was no space. And so when you're talking about, I catch myself sometimes like going, I don't like that. No, in my mind more, like that pushing away, like, you don't know me, that don't think you know me, right? I do. It's such a not aware part of myself. Thank you, Sarah. Really, I just was not that aware of that part of me that was protecting me from being not seen and absorbed, told what I am and what I think, like blended with the no, enmeshed, no boundary, right? No respect for me, what I think. That was seriously, that was such a huge gift. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Deborah. Yeah, thank you for letting that part speak. Yeah, because it allowed it to be seen in all of us. Um, yeah, for me, I don't see that part a lot. I don't listen to it a lot. So thank you so much for bringing up your part so that it can bring out that part in me.
How about what Sarah just did for this teenage part in her, which also did it for the teenage parts in all of us, which we were just hearing from how that resounded with Deborah. What's it like for our teenage parts to be celebrated, seen, having an advocate? It's like advocated for. Hey, this is what this teenage part needs. This is what it does, and this is why it does it. Because this is what's important: this autonomy, its voice, its control of its own life, authority. These things are important, and this is why it's doing that. And Sarah advocating for our teenage parts for us. What was that like for our parts to be seen, appreciated, respected, understood in that way? And do we have parts like I have in my system that's like, oh, I want to get in line. How can I buy a ticket so that Sarah can like introduce me and speak for me and speak for, hey, I've got a shy part that would love to have Sarah do that little 5 minute monologue about. And it's like, can we, it's like this welcoming that we're describing, and Goalie was pushing the edge on, like really listening to, and then Sarah just did a monologue on behalf of the part in this welcoming. Where do we want to go from here? How are we've got 20 more minutes left, or with four of us, we could move towards closure. Wherever we want to go. How are we doing? What's live from in our dance together? Or is it that just kind of like dropping the mic and it's like, whoa, that's that's after what we just did. Is that just like that's it's done, Sid? We stop here. Like what's
For me, it was a beautiful dance with so much harmony. I enjoyed it so much. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you, Sid. Thank you for the safe space and allowing our parts to come out.
Yeah, thank you so much. That was really so powerful. I'm really blown away by that, Sarah. And the fact that we're all here together and that it's in your arms where we come to, Sid, is it makes these things happen. This magic happened. It happens because we all open and you make this safe place for us. It's so beautiful. Thank you so much.
I'll, I'll receive that and say thank you for saying that. And it as it feels like it's I can't say in any way it's more my square than it is each of your squares. This safe space, this co-creation. And so I love how we create this space for each other. And I'm just one puts it out there. Um, mm, everybody all right if we move towards closure? If there are any parts, everybody all right? Any part? Oh, a heart. Anything else that
Supposed to
wants to be said?
It's supposed to do the heart thing, Vincent.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, it's supposed to do
Oh, look,
this.
Sarah came in. Sarah came. How did everybody do that? Wow.
It's under reaction, Sid, on the bottom.
Oh, hang on. Let me join in.
Supposed to when you do this.
It usually does.
Oh, yeah, I did.
Oh, yay! We're all in the heart.
Yeah, do
Mine's not
this.
there
It
yet.
does again. Yay.
Oh my God, that's so fun. Oh, mm,
Thank you, Sid, for your beautiful
Thank you.
art and the space that you make.
Yeah,
no, you're
yeah,
welcome.
yeah.
It
Thank you always.
j- enjoyed it immensely. Everybody, a wonderful day to you. And
The same. Thank
come
you.
play again. See you later.
Oh, look at
Yay!
that.